Welcome to Little Antique Me. That's me. Okay, just kidding. It's not me. Hello and welcome to Little Antique Me. That's me, which I am not in the video at the moment, but I am here. Today I am very, very excited because we are going to make this lovely hat. I know, sounds crazy, but you're going to have to trust me on this one. It's not as hard as it looks. I was showing pictures on Instagram about how I made this, and people were following along and asking me questions, and so I thought it would be a good idea to just go ahead and make a tutorial. So here we go. For the hat, I used a 14 gauge wire that I found at Hobby Lobby. You're going to need some good wire cutters for those. I bought some black velvet material plus some stiff interfacing, which was iron-on. I had this left over from a project. It's just black thin lining that I'm going to use to line the hat. You are also going to use these flower patterns I found online. I can actually put the link below to those. Some thread, pins, and let's see, what else do we need? We need scissors, always important. I was going to give you an exact measurement of how long I use for the wire, but it's kind of hard because you're going to measure it and fit it to your own head. So your head might be smaller than mine, your head might be bigger than mine, we might be the same size, who knows. So I just basically measured it to my head and to my mannequin's head. I create a oval shape, almost like a football, by bending the one end so that it starts to bend and make that shape. Next, I'm going to, on the other side, make another oval shape with that end, and then, measure it on my mannequin head to see how it looks. I've also used it on my head a couple of times to see too, but that was hard to film and show you. Now I'm going to twist the ends together to create the shape I am looking for, and also to hold it together just so that I can move it and shape it and give you antennas. Yay! Once you have it to the shape you want and the length you need, go ahead and trim off the ends. And then if you're like me and you have a handy dandy husband, you can use him to really add pressure to those ends to bend them together so that when you put the fabric on, there will be no lumps and bumps. And he actually squeezed it really hard so that it would stay together. And there is our first initial shape. Again, trying it on the mannequin, trying it on yourself, seeing and make sure how it fits, bend where you need, shape where you need to. Next, I add a little bit more of my wire to go over top of the hat, so to create a brace for the middle. I don't know what you want to call it. Name it what you like. And so for this part, I go ahead and I twist it onto one end, and then I try to keep it the same height as the other two bars and twisting it all together. Once you have that middle piece attached, make sure you squeeze it really good with your pliers to make sure it's all nice and flat, bending any shapes that need to be stuck down, and then try it out again on your mannequin or on your own head. Because next we're going to add fabric and it needs to be nice and smooth. On the back of my black velvet material, I used a stiff interfacing that was ironable, so I ironed it onto the back of my material. And again, the amount that you're going to need is kind of dependent on the size of your hat and the size of your head. So to start, I just started by pinning one side onto the frame. So folding the fabric over the frame and pinning it together.
shining bright, woo me a will, that wonderful the we go away. Here's the coat to tease me and to stick all here.
On the other side, you're going to want to make sure that when you're pinning it, you're pulling it nice and snug, because you don't want the material to bubble or ripple across the top of the hat. You might have a slight gathering around the edge, but that's okay. You just don't want it to be rippled up on the top. Once you have it pinned all the way down, I went ahead and trimmed off some of my extra fabric because it's kind of bulky and it was kind of getting in the way, and eventually I'm going to need to fold the corners down on the points of the hat, so with too much fabric there it becomes way too bulky, and so trimming the extra off really helps. Make sure you set that aside because you're going to want to use it for your flowers later. So now this is the hat all pinned in. I went back and after I had cut things, I readjusted and moved the fabric around to better lay it down so that it's nice and smooth, and to look and make sure that I could lay the point of the end down as well. Now for the sewing. So I just took my regular cotton thread, threaded it on my needle, started on the middle, or you could start on the side. It doesn't really matter where you start. The key is to make teeny tiny stitches all the way around your hat, right next to your wire that you put underneath the material. Alright, now that it's all stitched together, we're going to go ahead and make our flowers out of the leftover material we had that we cut off the hat. So for this one, I could get my rotary cutter out and cut it exactly, but I'm just going to get a general shape for the flowers. This pattern is actually meant for felt flowers, and it works extremely well on that. I actually have a hat that I did these on that was felt, and it's beautiful. So we have kind of a octagon shape, and then I'm just going to round out the corners and creating almost my own pattern, if you will. Or if you really wanted to, you can follow the pattern exactly. I just am lazy, I suppose. Alright, once you have that cut out, we're going to go ahead and get our thread and needle again. I fold the flower in half any way you'd like. I start on one side and then I stitch all the way down the middle, not quite to the end because you want the flower petals to kind of open up at the end. Once you've gone all the way down the middle, I take my thread back to the middle of the flower, and then I fold another petal in half and stitch halfway up it, and then continue around the same kind of pattern around the entire flower. Once you've stitched all the petals, go ahead and open it up. I went ahead and made 3 of them. One is a large, one's a medium, and one's a small, and stitched them all exactly the same way. Next, I'm going to put my hat back on my mannequin head, and I'm going to just kind of generally lay the flowers on there just to kind of look and see how they look, move them around, place them wherever I want. Perhaps I can overlap them, bend petals down, stitch them however looks the best. This is the great part because you can be very creative with this. You can put them on however you see and what makes sense for you. So I stitched the back of the flower, and then for this one I attached it kind of towards the bottom of my hat, but not too far because I end up going ahead and stacking the other flowers underneath of it. So after I stitched all the flowers on, I put it back on my mannequin head so that I could adjust and move petals. And this is the part where, like this one for example, I decided to tack down that front petal so it's not hanging over the hat, but was just kind of on the hat instead. And this is a great part where you can just move petals, adjust them, look and see where the flowers look good, and go from there. It's all personal preference from this point out. Now for the lining. So for my lining, I laid it out flat, laid my hat on it, and roughly just cut around the shape of my hat. I probably could be more exact with this, but again, I'm not a professional. This is only my second time doing this, so I just did what I thought looked best. So for the lining, I went ahead and folded it over so that the rough sides are inside of the hat so you don't see them. And I pinned the lining all the way around the hat so that later I can move it if I need to while I'm sewing, but just trying to make sure it's not too taut or too tight. And this will give you a very smooth finish. Once you have it pinned, make sure again that it is laying very flat to the hat and that there's no too big of a ripple or bubble there. Now we're going to go ahead and sew it. And so I do what's called an invisible stitch on this. So I catch a little bit of the hat and then I catch a little bit of the lining as so that it doesn't show, and then I keep going from there. Once you've stitched all the way around, I like to go back and add some support stitches. So that basically holds the lining to the hat. If you make them small enough, you should not be able to see them from the top of the hat. I do about 3 of these across the top. Thank you so very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this little tutorial. I hope I was able to explain it. I wanted to make a disclaimer that I am not a professional. This is only my second time doing it, so bear with me if some of the instructions were a little interesting. I would like to also thank those who encouraged me to make this hat and share it with you. I will actually be giving this particular hat away on my Instagram and my Facebook, so look for that pretty soon. Also, if you make your own, I would love to see pictures, so feel free to send me a picture of it. I think that would be really neat to see your guys' creations. I will post them on my Instagram stories if you do. Also, if you want to see more of these kind of do-it-yourself tutorials, or maybe some cooking, or I don't know, whatever you guys want to see, please leave those in the comments below. I would love to hear what you would like to see on my channel. I look forward to making more exciting videos for you all this year, and I hope you have a great week. May God bless you and keep you this week, and I'll see you next time. Bye!